welcome to the Above Average Podcast. I'm your host, Lake, and with me, as always, is my host, Tannen, or co-host. Ciao. Yeah, we're continuing with our Italian travel advice. Our Italian travel advice by dumb tourists for dumb tourists. So learn from my mistakes.
Exactly what we need.
But my advice is so that you don't live like a local, because let's be honest, you won't be able to. Come on, people are always trying to tell you, oh, live like a local. You're not gonna be. You don't speak Italian, so settle for my advice. All right, so things to see in Venice. So number 5. The Botanical Gardens. Not sure many people know that there's botanical gardens in Venice. I sure as hell didn't know that. But yeah, there's beautiful botanical gardens on the lagoon, and it's a really strange experience to be on the lagoon and suddenly find yourself in a park with fountains and statues of Garibaldi. But yeah, it's a nice. It's more peaceful, less touristy. Again, keeping with my theme of always adding parks. But yeah, good
touristy.
I don't want to say non-touristy because it is, but it's a less hectic experience, but still very much worth going to.
Yep.
Now, before I get into the rest of the list, I just want to talk a little bit about the geography of Venice. So Venice as a city is huge, and it takes up there's a mainland part called what's it called, Mestre. There's a lagoon island called Lido, which I think is technically still part of Venice. I'm not quite sure. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And so so there's a chain island where Lido is that protects a lagoon where the actual old city of Venice is. So there's the mainland, the lagoon where all the tiny islands are, and then there's Lido. And what I recommend people do is go beyond the main island. Which is why my number 4 recommendation is Lido, the chain island protecting the lagoon. It's really nice. There's lots of shops and restaurants. It has the beach, which is really nice, but it's also notably where the Venice International Film Festival happens.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a nice place. Lots of cultural history there, but it's it's definitely not a typical Venice experience of an old medieval city, but still something worth checking out if you're in the neighborhood.
Good to know.
Yeah. Number 3 is the most touristy one on the list, the Basilica San Marco. So, Tannen, tell me where, if you go to Venice, where do you go?
Not there.
Wrong. You go to the Piazza San Marco, or the Piazza San Marco. So the main, this is the most touristy spot in all of Venice. It's super crowded, full of people taking pictures. It has the Doge's Palace and the Basilica San Marco. Just everything it's the most Venice-y touristy spot in the whole city. It's on the main lagoon island, the one with all the canals, with the gondolas and shit, and it's the central part that people go to see. Now, I'm not saying go see Piazza San Marco, see the Basilica San Marco. So the Basilica is the giant blue domed church that overlooks the area, but it's interesting because it has the remains of Saint Mark, or San Marco as the Italians call him, and Saint Mark from the Bible, who wrote the Gospel of Mark. And I thought, what the fuck? There's no way he's actually here. But no, he's in that church.
Creepy.
I assumed he was somewhere in the Middle East, but it turns out some crusaders stole his bones from Alexandria in Egypt while they were on crusade. Because, you need saintly relics and corpses for legitimacy in medieval Europe. It helps your street cred. But anyway, lots of people go to the Piazza, but hardly anyone goes inside the Basilica. And the reason they don't is because the Basilica San Marco is an actual functioning cathedral. It's an actual working church that people go to and pray at.
Nice.
Exactly. So, but to keep the tourist horde out, you know, there's a guy, there's a security guard guarding the entrance, and he, you know, kind of keeps it all orderly. But the way they dissuade tourists, but, you know, while still allowing people to like go inside and use the church, is they forbid you from taking pictures of the inside. So if you go into the Basilica San Marco, you're in for
A treat?
a pretty incredible treat. Yes. The whole thing is just covered in garish gold leaf, and it's a very incredible church on the inside. And it's very weirdly quiet given how touristy it is outside. And I'm truly shocked that because you can't take pictures, no one goes inside. So, you know, if you want pictures, yeah, don't psych yourself up, because you're not gonna get any.
You didn't get any?
No, I like the guy like
You behaved.
is pretty adamant. Like, I behaved in the Sistine Chapel. There's enough people there that I can like sneak a picture, but in the Basilica San Marco, there's not a lot of people there, and I didn't want to make a fuss. I just wanted to go inside.
Yeah.
And it was worth it, even though I didn't get any pictures. But, you know, you can just check Wikipedia for those if you ever want to go back. But yeah, it was definitely worth the experience.
Nice.
And then the last...
I think you're on number 2.
Wait, no. That was number 3. Never mind. Sorry. Number 2 is the Grand Canal. That's not really sort of one thing. The Grand Canal. So there's a lot of mini canals that break up like the main island
area
of Venice. And yeah, a lot of mini ones, but there's a big canal, a Grand Canal, if you will, that cuts through sort of the center of the islands. And taking a boat along there is just, it's really the best way to see Venice. You know, you get to see basically everything. You're not because it's a wide, you get to see the Rialto Bridge and the Ducal Palace, and, you know, everything along the water. And you're not, you know, kind of trapped in the sort of claustrophobic corridors of the pedestrian footpaths of Venice. Yeah. It's a lot more open, and you get to see a lot more. My number one tip for going to Venice is you can buy a transit pass and pay a little, and that gets you on like the buses and trams and trains that go to the main island.
Yep.
And you can pay a little extra to take like the boat bus. I don't know what else to call it. It's just like there's a boat service that goes between different stops. Most of them go along the Grand Canal, and they take you to like Lido and the outlying islands and that sort of thing. But buy yourself
the boat taxi.
Buy yourself the boat taxi pass. It's the best way to see the city, and it's the best way to get around the city. So yeah, and it'll encourage you go on to the outlying islands more and explore more. Yeah. And that brings me to my number one pick, which is the far outlying island, Venetian island of Burano. Burano is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. It's like, it's its own island, and it has its own canals through it. It's basically a mini Venice. But all of the houses on Burano are painted bright, ridiculous colors.
Nice.
So imagine like a bright, colorful Venice. So yeah, and again, like it is touristy, but not so crowded like the Piazza San Marco. And it's breathtaking, it's beautiful, and the food is incredible. There's a restaurant there I went to called Trattoria al Gatto Nero, which means restaurant of something cat. Or something. I don't actually speak Italian. I don't know what Nero means.
Money?
Yeah, there's a dish in, this is like the only traditional Italian dish I'm going to recommend. In Burano, they have their own version of risotto called, I think it's just called risotto della Brunella, something like that. And it's a fish risotto, and it's very delicious. There's Michelin restaurants on the island.
Nice.
And they make an amazing fish risotto. So definitely something
check it out.
To check out. Also, Aperol Spritz is a Venetian thing. Yeah.
Get drunk.
Yeah, drink your Aperol Spritz. in Venice. The best thing I can recommend. So yeah, go to Venice. A lot of people hate on Venice because it's tourist trappy, but don't listen to them. There's lots of great stuff to see around Venice, especially in the outlying islands away from like central Venice itself, which you should still see. You should still see
Lots to see. Yeah.
central Venice. Go to Venice. Go to Venice. It's a tourist trap for a reason.
All right.